Starting off with the Angels, and I like Jack Economix. He's one of the Angels' higher-ranked pitching prospects, and after a cup of coffee last year, I think he's pretty intriguing. First off, this guy is absolutely massive at 6'7", and his go-to pitch is his sinker, so with his height, that makes it a pretty tough pitch for hitters to pick up, and he throws a lot of strikes as well. As you can see here, he was in the 98th percentile in walk percentage, and he limits the hard contact. The only problem is he doesn't strike a lot of guys out, but his curveball was an above average pitch when it came to stuff plus last year. So I wonder if he utilizes that a bit more often this year. That could lead to a few more strikeouts. Another thing I like about Economix is that he finished the year very strong last year. He went 7 innings in each of his last 3 starts, and he only gave up a combined 4 runs. On to the Astros, and I got Spencer Arrighetti. He ended up getting a good amount of action last year in his debut season with the Astros, and he was pretty solid for the most part. He gets a good amount of swing and miss, as you can see here, with the whiff percentage ranking well. Got a good amount of strikeouts along with that in the 79th percentile, mainly thanks to his curveball and his sweeper, and he had some of the best extension in all of baseball last year. He ranked in the 96th percentile in extension. Now, the one thing he needs to work on is his fastball. Batters are hitting over 300 against it last year. I think if he leans a bit more away from his fastball and utilizes his other pitches like his cutter and maybe the breaking pitches a little bit more, I think we could see him take a big step forward. On to the A's, and I'll go with Osvaldo Bido. He took a big step forward for the A's last year, posting a 3.41 ERA over 16 games, and a lot of that was due to limiting the hard contact. As you can see here, he ranked in the 99th percentile when it came to his average exit velocity. He was in the 100th percentile when it came to the hard hit percentage, and the 93rd percentile when it came to his barrel percentage. Now, he loves to pound the zone. He throws a lot of strikes. He did get a decent amount of whiffs and a decent amount of strikeouts, but I feel like if he could find a way to get these batters to chase a little bit more, pump up those strikeouts a little bit, I think he could take a massive step forward. For the Blue Jays, I got Yariel Rodriguez. Toronto signed him last offseason out of Japan to a 5-year deal, and I think he's pretty interesting. It does look like they're going to be using him as a starter after the possibility of being a reliever was on the table, but I think there's some potential there. Now, he does limit the hard contact. As you can see here, he ranked well when it came to the average exit velocity, the barrel percentage, the hard hit percentage, but I think there's room for improvement here, and I think there's a lot more potential to tap into. He has a very nasty curveball and a slider, both of them ranked very well when it came to spin rates, so I think with a year of experience in the major leagues, we could see even more better results this coming year. On to the Braves, and I got Grant Holmes. He was very solid in his debut season in 2024, pitching as both a starter and a reliever, posting a 3.57 ERA and a FIP of 3.20. Also had a solid strikeout to walk ratio, right around 9 strikeouts per 9, under 2 walks per 9 as well. Now, he gets a lot of chase, he gets a lot of whiffs, but that was mainly due to the breaking pitches he has. I think there's room here to add even more strikeouts. Now, really, he's just a 3-pitch kind of a guy. He's got a fastball, curveball, and a slider, but this offseason, he added a new type of changeup called a kick changeup, which is a changeup with splitter action. Now, if that pitch ends up working out, we could see a good increase in strikeouts here. For the Brewers, I got Trevor McGill. He's going to be the new full-time closer with Devin Williams heading to the Yankees, and I think he's going to be just fine. He saved 21 games last year while Williams was on the IL with a back injury. This guy gets a ton of swing and miss, as you can see here, with the chase percentage, the whiff percentage, got a good amount of strikeouts as well. This guy's got a ton of velocity, has a good knuckle curveball as well. He is just a 2-pitch pitcher, but he keeps it simple. It's worked out for him in the past. I think he's going to be a very good closer for the Brewers this year. For the Cardinals, I got Matthew Liberatore. A little while ago, he was one of the top pitching prospects in the game, but he hasn't fully been able to find his way at the major league level. I think this year, though, we could see a step in the right direction. Last year, he did find success out of the bullpen, posting a 3.69 ERA and a 3.66 FIP as a reliever, and it looks like he's going to continue with that role for this coming year. Maybe he becomes a starter at some point, but I think what worked for him last year is he was able to just focus more on a few pitches, mainly his fastball, slider, and the sinker. Now, the fastball was still getting hit hard a little bit, but I think if he leans more into the sinker, maybe the cutter, or just uses breaking pitches a bit more, I think we could even see better results for this coming year. On to the Cubs, and I have Ben Brown, one of the Cubs' top pitching prospects not too long ago. Brown had a solid debut season last year, posting a 3.58 ERA and a 3.11 FIP. He's got a ton of velocity, and he gets a good amount of whiffs and strikeouts as well, both ranked very well for him last year. Now, he does walk a few too many batters, only in the 40th percentile when it came to his walk percentage, and he does give up a good amount of hard contact. Last year, he was really just working off of two pitches, the fastball and the curveball. So I think if you could find a way to integrate a third pitch a bit more consistently, maybe a changeup, I think that would make hitters a lot more uncomfortable against him. On to the Diamondbacks, and I got Zach Gallen. Now, you might be thinking, well, Robbie, isn't Zach Gallen already one of the best pitchers in baseball? Well, yes, but he did take a bit of a step back last year, seeing his ERA and FIP rise, while also walking more batters along the way. For me personally, I'm guessing there was a bit of a mechanical issue going on with him, along with the injuries he was suffering. That was probably hurting his command a little bit. His zone percentage dropped about 6% last season, showing he wasn't throwing as many strikes, and his fastball was getting hit a lot harder, even though it had around the same velocity and spin rate, going from a plus 23 run value in 2023 to -7 last year. So all in all, I think if he just gets himself right mechanically and gets his fastball back to what it was doing in 2023, along with a little extra motivation since he is going to be a free agent after this year, I think we're going to see a good year out of him. For the Dodgers, I got to go with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I think he could be a legit Cy Young contender in year 2 in the major leagues this year. Now, last year, he did deal with a shoulder injury. He did miss a chunk of time with that before making it back to the postseason to help the Dodgers win the World Series. But now that he's further removed from that shoulder injury, he's got a full year of experience under his belt in the major leagues. I think he could take a big step forward this year. Now, as you can see, we got a lot of good things going on. He gets a lot of chase, gets a good amount of strikeouts. He limits the walks as well. Now, I think if he can make a couple of improvements, I think he could limit the barrels, the hard hit percentage a little bit. And then when it comes to his cutter last year wasn't very good. Had a -1 run value. Batters are hitting 350 against it with a 550 on the slugging. Now, I think get away from the cutter a little bit. Focus on the good pitches he has. Use the fastball, that very good splitter he has, that great curveball that he has. Work in that sinker, the slider a little bit. I think Yamamoto is going to have a very good 2025. For the Giants, I got Camille Duvall. He was regarded as one of the top closers in the game at one point, saving 39 games back in 2023. But last year, this guy struggled big time. He walked almost 6 batters per 9, and he gave up a lot of hard contact. As you can see here, he was only in the 30th percentile with his barrel percentage, 30th percentile when it came to the average exit velocity. Now, he still was getting a lot of swing and miss, a lot of strikeouts as well. Still had pretty good expected numbers. But I think when it came to his command, there was probably something going on a bit mechanically there, and it looks like he has smoothed it out. He is pitching a lot better this spring. He's only walked 1 batter for this entire spring so far. I think he's going to bounce back here for 2025. For the Guardians, I got Gavin Williams. He was their first-round pick a few years ago. While he has shown some promise, he hasn't fully been able to put it all together at the major league level. But this year, though, I think we could see him take a big step forward. Now, as you can see here, he's got good velo, he's got good extension, but a problem he's been having is getting swing and misses and batters to chase, which has resulted in pretty average strikeout numbers. Now, this is mainly due to the fact that he goes pretty heavy with the fastball, which is a good pitch for him, but he isn't getting too much out of his breaking and off-speed stuff. This offseason, though, he has improved his fastball, where he's releasing the pitch a little bit higher to get some better action on it, and he has tweaked his slider to be more of a sweeper, and I think these slight changes could go a long way in getting some more strikeouts. For the Mariners, I'll go with their first-round pick from 2020, Emerson Hancock. For Hancock, he's really just been a depth guy for the last couple of years, but I think he could bring some more to the table this season. Now, last year, he did show a decent fastball and changeup, but he's been lacking a breaking pitch over the last couple of years. But this spring, he has been playing around with a sweeper, and he's also utilizing a bit more of a sinker. I think if he could simply have some more pitches at his disposal, that could take him from being just a depth guy to being a pretty dependable arm for the Mariners. On to the Marlins, and I got Ryan Weathers. Weathers has started to show some promise over the last couple of years since getting drafted 7th overall back in 2018, posting a 3.63 ERA over 16 starts last year. Now, he's got very good velocity from the left side, right around 95.5 miles per hour on average. That ranks in the 76th percentile. He doesn't walk a whole lot of guys. He gets a lot of ground balls as well. Now, he mainly got good results from his sweeper and changeup last year, but his fastball hasn't really produced great results, with batters hitting over 300 against it last year. Now, this spring, his fastball has shown a little bit better life at times, so perhaps that could lead to more success this coming year. For the Mets, I'm going to go with Clay Holmes. A lot of people joked about the Mets signing Holmes as a starter after being a reliever for so many years, but honestly, the more I've thought about it, the more I like it. He's got a big frame to be a starter at 6'5", 245 pounds, and he had very good metrics last year. I mean, take a look at all the Reds we got going here. He's got good velocity, gets a good amount of swing and miss with strikeouts, and he limits the hard contact. I think that's going to translate well to being a starter because he has 3 pitches to work with. He's got a sinker, a sweeper, and a slider, but he's also adding a changeup for this year, the kick changeup, like I mentioned earlier, which gives him a pretty solid arsenal. I think he's going to end up being one of the more underrated signings from this past offseason. For the Nationals, I'll go with Mackenzie Gore. It's taken Gore a while to find success since he was one of the top pitching prospects in the game, but it's looking like he's starting to figure it out. He posted a 3.90 ERA and a 3.53 FIP with just under 10 strikeouts per 9 last year, but I think there's even more room for improvement here. Now, even though he did struggle with the fastball a little bit, it did rank pretty well when it came to his stuff plus, so that tells me the pitch selection needs to be altered a little bit in certain counts, and funny enough, when I saw his splits when ahead and behind in counts, there is a pretty big difference there. When he's got 2 strikes on a guy, it's basically night-night for the batter, but when he falls behind in counts, he basically gets clobbered. Now, that's probably where the most of the damage is coming from with his fastball, so if he can get that worked out, I think he can take a step forward. For the Orioles, I got Tomoyuki Sagano. I think Sagano is very intriguing this year. Now, remember a couple of years ago, he almost came over to the States before staying in Japan, but at 35 years old, he's finally coming over now with the Orioles, and I think he ends up being a very dependable guy. He's got a lot of pitches to play with, including a 4-seamer, cutter, sinker, splitter, and a curveball. Now, what I like about Sagano is he leans into all of his pitches and he pounds the strike zone. He's a strike-throwing machine, and he knows how to work the counts. He's a good veteran pitcher. Now, he's not going to blow you away with stuff by any means, but he's going to get by with it, and he'll beat you with mixing and matching his pitches and locating his pitches. And since these hitters haven't really seen him, I'm going to bank on that translating to success this year. For the Padres, I got Michael King. Now, I know he pretty much already broke out over the last couple of years, but since this past year was his first full year as a starter, I'm really excited to see what this guy can do in year 2, especially with free agency coming up for him. Now, he did a great job across the board last year. He got a lot of whiffs, a lot of strikeouts, and he did a great job at limiting the hard contact. Now, if I were to find a couple of things to nitpick here, I think maybe he could improve going a bit deeper into games as batters' numbers creeped up the 3rd time through the order against him. Now, maybe another thing is maybe he can improve the 4-seamer a little bit. It had a 0 run value, but there's not really a whole lot to improve. Michael King, I think, is going to be very good, but I wonder if he could be even better than what he did last year. On to the Phillies, and I got to go with Ryan Kerkering. Now, he was already very good last year, posting a 2.29 ERA and a 2.42 FIP with over 10 strikeouts per 9. This is because this guy is just absolutely nasty. He's got a disgusting sweeper and a sinker to go along with it. So you might be asking me, Robbie, how does this guy get any better? Well, I think this is the year he becomes the full-time closer. Now, they did bring in Jordan Romano, but with all the issues he had last year when it came to his health, I wonder how reliable he's going to be. Kerkering, I think, is going to end up as one of the top closers in the game sooner rather than later. For the Pirates, I got to go with Paul Skeens, and I know, this is probably an easy one, kind of a cop-out answer, but I mean, I don't see why this guy couldn't win the Cy Young in his 2nd season in the major leagues. We all know the story of Paul Skeens. My goodness, the numbers were absolutely disgusting last year in his rookie season. Had an ERA of 1.96 and 11 strikeouts per 9. My goodness, his lowest ranked percentile outside of his extension was the 70th percentile when it came to his hard hit percentage. My goodness, I can't even imagine what Paul Skeens is going to do in year 2. He's already working on a couple more pitches this spring. He's looking at a cutter, a 2-seamer. He's playing around with a splinker, for crying out loud. Paul Skeens, I think, has a very good chance at winning the Cy Young this year. For the Rangers, I got Kumar Rocker. It's been quite the ride for Rocker, going from a standout at Vanderbilt to being drafted by the Mets to not signing with the Mets to ending up in Indie Ball to then being drafted by the Rangers, then getting Tommy John to working his way back to this point. My goodness. Now, last year, he did have a small cup of coffee starting 3 games, posting an ERA at 3.86. Over those 3 starts, he did show some good velo stuff, and he limited a good amount of barrels. Now, his fastball was getting hit pretty hard despite the good velocity, so I think leaning more into his very good slider and a sinker a bit more over the coming season is going to be huge for him. The sky is the limit for this guy. For the Rays, I got Taj Bradley. He had a pretty solid season for the most part last year, posting a 4.11 ERA over the 25 starts, but there's definitely some room for improvement here, I think. Now, he did have very good velocity, as you can see here, ranking in the 86th percentile. He got a lot of guys to chase. He got a good amount of whiffs, but he was pretty middle of the road when it came to his walks, and he gave up a lot of hard contact. Now, the pitch that got hit the hardest for him last year was his fastball, so I think if he starts leaning into some other pitches a little bit more, that would make him a little less predictable. For the Red Sox, I got Walker Buehler. Now, Foolish Bailey said he didn't like Walker Buehler for 2025, and I got to disagree here. I think he's set up very well to have himself a good year. Now, he did miss a lot of time after getting his second Tommy John surgery, and his numbers weren't very good when he came back. Had an ERA at 5.38 over 16 starts. Now, his fastball velocity still looked okay, averaging around 95 miles per hour. That ranked in the 65th percentile, but the life on it was down, so overall, the hitters were able to pick up on it. Now, his curveball, even though it did have pretty good life, had some good spin, had some good movement, it wasn't as effective, mainly because the fastball was so easy to pick up, and he was pretty predictable for the most part. However, when he got deeper into the postseason, his 4-seam fastball was getting a bit of life back, and he was getting more swing and misses with the curveball, and I think with the Red Sox, he fits perfectly with their plan of leaning into the strength. So, obviously, the fastball took a bit of a toll last year, so I think the Red Sox are going to start getting away from that. I think they're going to lower the usage of that, lean into his cutter a little bit more, which was a pretty good pitch for him last year, start incorporating a sinker a little bit more. And I don't think there was anything wrong with the curveball last year. I think just because hitters were able to pick him up so easily, ended up not being an effective pitch for him. Maybe location could be a little better with that, but overall, the fact that he's now had, a few months here of a normal offseason to get himself right, a normal spring training, I think we're going to end up seeing a very good Walker Buehler here in 2025. Also, shout out to the number 14 prospect in the Red Sox system, Richard Fitz. He had a pretty good cup of coffee with the Red Sox at the end of the year last year, but this spring, he's showing improved velocity. He's touched 99 this spring. The stuff is looking a lot better. I think he could end up being an under-the-radar guy for the Red Sox this year. For the Reds, I'll go with Nick Lodolo. He missed a lot of time in 2023 due to a leg injury, but he came back last year, and he was looking pretty good. ERA was a little high at 4.76, but the FIP was a lot better at 3.95. And he was still getting a lot of swing and misses along with a good chase rate. This was thanks to very good movement on his pitches, showing his injuries that he had a couple of years ago didn't really cause any issues for him. I expect him to keep building upon this in 2025. For the Rockies, I got Tyler Kinley. Now, when it comes to the Rockies, you usually don't think pitching, but I think Rockies closer Tyler Kinley could be pretty interesting. He mainly works off 2 pitches, a slider and a fastball that has pretty good velocity, averaging around 96 miles an hour there. He also does a few other things pretty well. He gets a lot of chase, a lot of whiff. He ranked in the 93rd percentile in his whiff percentage, gets a decent amount of strikeouts along with that. He does limit the exit velocity and the hard hit percentage. I think with him, if he can just kind of find a way to reduce the barrels a little bit, especially at Coors Field, that's going to limit the home runs that he gives up. He gave up a decent amount of home runs last year. If he can figure that out, I think he could be an underrated closer this year. Here's another guy moving from the bullpen to the rotation, Chris Bubic for the Royals. Now, last year as a reliever, he had very good metrics across the board, minus the fastball velocity. I mean, look at all the Reds here, for crying out loud. Now, he was mainly working off a good fastball and a slider. He also has a changeup and a sinker to go along with it that had some pretty good run values last year. And since he already has a pretty good mix of pitches, I think he could end up becoming a pretty good starter. For the Tigers, I got Reese Olson. Now, he did miss a lot of time last year due to injury in the second half, but before that, he was pretty solid. Had an ERA at 3.53 with a FIP at 3.17. He got a good amount amount of whiffs, got a good amount of chase. As you can see here, 87th percentile with his chase rate, 75th percentile with the whiff percentage, but only the 39th percentile when it came to the strikeout rate. So I think there could be some improvement there. Now, he did get a lot of whiffs with his slider as well as his changeup. Both had over a 40% whiff rate. And this spring, he is using a sinker a bit more often. So I think if he leans more into that sinker and keeps up the slider and the changeup, I think he can get some more strikeouts. On to the Twins, and I got David Festa. Now, his ERA did not look great last year at 4.90, but his FIP was a lot better at 3.76. This was because he was getting a good amount of strikeouts, over 10 strikeouts per 9 over 14 games. Also had a high BABIP at 319, batting average on balls in play. When that's high, that could mean that batters are getting a little lucky against him, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that this coming year. Now, he does get a lot of chase, a lot of whiffs as well. And when it comes to his extension, he is pretty hard to pick up. He was in the 89th percentile when it came to his extension. Now, the four-seamer for him last year was getting hit a little harder, but for this year, he is working on a sinker. So I think if he can get that squared away, I think we could see a good year out of Festa. For the White Sox, I go with their opening day starter, Sean Burke. Not a lot of people are paying mind to the White Sox this year, but I think Burke could be pretty interesting. He's got good velo, he gets a lot of whiffs, and he ranks pretty well when it comes to his extension, the 89th percentile overall. Now, obviously, last year for him was a pretty small sample size. He mainly worked off 3 pitches, a fastball, slider, and a curveball, an occasional changeup as well. Now, the fastball and the curveball registered pretty well when it came to the stuff plus. Gets a lot of swing and miss with the slider, and he's also adding a two-seamer into the mix this coming year. I think he could be a sneaky guy this year. Let's wrap this up with Will Warren for the Yankees. Back-to-back years, the Yankees are hoping to find a savior to step up for Garrett Cole, and I think Warren maybe could be that guy. He got hit pretty hard last year, posting an ERA over 10 across 6 games and 5 starts, but there is some stuff to like here. Now, first off, he has pretty good extension, the 77th percentile last year, which can make him pretty hard to pick up overall. He's also got a good fastball slider combo, which he showed last year with the strikeout percentage, 26.4% overall. Now, he just needs to limit the walks. He had a 9.1 walk rate last year. Now, when it came to limiting the damage, that was a big problem for him. As you can see here, average exit velocity at 92.7 miles per hour. The barrel percentage was incredibly low. Hard hit percentage was incredibly low. He gave up 5 home runs across the 6 games that he pitched in. So I think there's going to need to be a bit of a tweak when it comes to his pitch mix. Now, his changeup and sinker both had pretty good stuff last year, but they were getting absolutely clobbered. He needs to find a way to stop leaving them over the plate, throw them for strikes more, get guys to chase them a little bit more. Now, he is having himself a pretty good spring so far, so maybe Will Warren could be the next savior for the New York Yankees. But everyone, those are the pictures that I like for every team in 2025. Tell me the pictures that you like for this coming year. But everyone, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new. We're trying to get to 50K by opening day. We're so close. Help us get there. But everyone, I'll talk to you next time.